Economic nationalism prioritizes state control of the national economy and promotion of national economic interests over foreign interests. It focuses on strengthening economic self-sufficiency, protecting domestic industries, and reducing import dependence. A contemporary example of economic nationalism is the United States' Make America Great Again policy under the Donald Trump administration. This policy included measures such as imposing tariffs on Chinese products to protect U.S. manufacturers, renegotiating trade agreements such as NAFTA to obtain more favorable terms for the U.S., and promoting domestic production through tax and regulatory incentives. Marxism. Marxist ideology, developed by Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels, holds that human history is a history of class struggle and that capitalism, with its system of private ownership of the means of production, inevitably leads to the exploitation of workers. Marx and Engels proposed the abolition of private ownership of the means of production, which they consider the source of exploitation and inequality, in order to establish a classless society through communism. The aim is to establish collective ownership of the means of production to eliminate exploitation and distribute wealth equitably. Marx and Engels' Communist Manifesto is one of the most influential texts of Marxism. Although Marxism predicts the abolition of capitalism, in practice, it has profoundly influenced social theory, politics, and revolutionary movements around the world. Marxism-Leninism. It is an adaptation of Marxism by Vladimir Lenin, which includes the idea of a vanguard party to lead the proletarian revolution and the dictatorship of the proletariat as a transitional phase towards communism. The Soviet Union, under the leadership of Lenin and his successors, implemented Marxism-Leninism, establishing a centralized state with a planned economy. The Cuban Revolution of 1959, led by Fidel Castro and Ernesto Che Guevara, also established a socialist state in Cuba based on Marxist-Leninist ideological principles. Neoliberalism. Emerging in the mid-20th century, it is based on principles of classical liberalism, but adapted to contemporary conditions. It emphasizes market efficiency and private initiative. To this end, it supports market liberalization, deregulation, and the reduction of public spending. It promotes the privatization of public services and the reduction of state intervention in the economy. Neoliberal policies were widely implemented in the 1980s and 1990s in countries such as the United States under Ronald Reagan and in the United Kingdom under Margaret Thatcher, resulting in further liberalization of financial and commercial markets. Anarchism seeks the abolition of all forms of coercive authority, including the state and capitalism, in favor of a society based on self-management, voluntary cooperation, and economic equality. The use of resources is based on the principle of usufruct. People have the right to use resources as long as they need them and keep them in good condition. During the Spanish Civil War in the region of Catalonia, there was a significant attempt to implement an anarchist system, with self-organized communities and collective ownership. Democratic socialism. It has its roots in the 19th century as a response to the exploitative conditions of industrial capitalism. Democratic socialism seeks to combine the principles of socialism with democratic processes. While favoring collective ownership in key sectors, democratic socialism also allows for the existence of private enterprises and free markets, regulated by the state. Nordic countries such as Sweden and Norway are often cited as examples of democratic socialism, with mixed market economies that provide extensive public services and a high standard of living. Laissez-Faire advocates no government intervention in the economy. Literally means, let it be done, in French, and is based on the belief that the economy functions best when market forces are allowed to operate freely. It is the law of supply and demand that sets the rules of the game. For example, the Industrial Revolution in 19th century Britain is a classic example of laissez-faire, where the lack of regulation allowed for rapid industrial growth, although it also led to extremely harsh working and living conditions for many workers. Liberalism promotes minimal state intervention in the economy, advocating free competition, free trade, and open markets. Unlike laissez-faire, liberalism does accept a certain amount of state intervention to correct market failures, protect property rights, and ensure social justice and economic equity. Adam Smith, with his work The Wealth of Nations of 1776, is considered the father of economic liberalism. His ideas have greatly influenced the development of modern capitalism and free market policies. Social market economy. It is an ideology based on the free market, but with social policies that ensure the welfare of all citizens. It seeks to balance economic freedom with social justice. The social market economy promotes free and fair competition in markets, believing that competition fosters efficiency, innovation, and economic growth. The state intervenes in the economy to correct market failures, ensure competition, and provide a strong welfare state. This includes antitrust regulations, subsidies to emerging industries, and tax policies. One of the most prominent examples of the social market economy occurred in Germany after World War II. Implemented by Ludwig Erhard in the 1950s, this system has allowed Germany to combine robust economic growth with a high level of social protection. Feminist Economics examines how current economic structures affect women and men differently. It seeks to understand and redress gender inequalities, highlighting the value of unpaid work, social reproduction, and the care economy, which are often invisibilized in traditional economics. One example of the application of feminist economics principles is gender budgeting. Some local and national governments have begun to implement budgets that analyze the impact of fiscal and spending policies on men and women, adjusting them to promote gender equity. Mixed economy combines elements of capitalism and socialism. It allows the coexistence of private and public enterprises, with the government intervening to regulate and balance the market. Most economic decisions are resolved by the interaction between buyers and sellers, but the state plays a fundamental role as administrator. France is an example of a mixed economy, where both the private and public sectors play important roles in the economy, and the government provides essential services such as health and education. Sabbath Economics. An economic approach based on ethical and spiritual principles, inspired by the biblical concept of the Sabbath, day of rest. This ideology promotes an economy that prioritizes human welfare, social justice, and environmental sustainability, following the idea of resting and letting the earth and people rest to prevent exploitation and promote renewal and balance. In the biblical tradition, the Sabbath is celebrated as a weekly day of rest on which all work stops, allowing people, animals, and the earth to rest. Mercantilism emerged in Europe during the 16th century and prevailed until the 18th century. It promotes state intervention in the economy to increase national power through trade and the accumulation of wealth, especially in the form of gold and silver. The central idea is that the wealth of a nation is measured by the amount of precious metals it possesses. It reached its apogee between the 16th and 18th centuries, during the era of the great European colonial empires. This period was marked by intense competition among European nations for control of resources and markets in the New World, Africa, and Asia. Fascist Economics combines elements of capitalism, state interventionism, and corporatism. It seeks a balance between state control and private ownership, with the aim of serving the state and the national community over individual interests. The fascist economy is organized in corporations or unions representing different economic sectors, workers, employers, etc. These corporations collaborate with the state to coordinate production, resolve labor disputes, and set economic policies. The fascist state, despite allowing private property, actively intervenes in the economy to direct industrial development, control prices and wages, and ensure that the economy serves national interests. The economy will be geared to support the military and expansionist aspirations of the fascist state. This includes the production of armaments and the development of military infrastructure. Fascist Italy under Benito Mussolini is a classic example of a fascist economy. Mussolini implemented corporatist policies, creating a system in which trade unions and business associations were organized under state control. The regime also sought economic self-sufficiency and promoted the arms industry to support its expansionist goals. If you liked this explanation, don't forget to like it and subscribe to the channel for more interesting content. See you next time.